What is up, champs and champettes? We are back and we are starting something new on the channel today called the Putt Confidently Approach. It is going to be our 10 principles that make up our Putt Confidently Approach. They're going to have you banging 20 footers and we are going to stop free putting. Free putting is done in 2024. Let's get into it. So our first principle is going to be putting in a three-dimensional fashion and not in a two-dimensional fashion. Now, when I'm talking about putting three-dimensionally, what I mean by that is putting with a bit of an arc on the disc, a bit of an arc in the flight, painting the pole, instead of putting two-dimensionally, which is essentially keeping the disc at the exact same height throughout its entire path toward the basket and just really winging it in there. The reason that I am much more of a fan of having a three-dimensional putt rather than a two-dimensional putt comes down to some good old simple math. If you're putting two-dimensionally and really spinning it in there, putting a lot of force on it, and keeping the disc at essentially the same height throughout its entire path, you are going to be working with a cross-section, a horizontal cross-section of the basket for your catching area. What isn't included in this catching area are these outside chains. So I'm gonna get the tape measure out and we're gonna measure this. But I'm thinking this outside chain here is not going to catch. I'm thinking we're gonna come in somewhere around here as a fair catching area on each side. Now, if you're putting three-dimensionally and painting the pole, you have this space to work with. This is essentially your catching area. So let's do some measurements, check it out, and see what's the better way to putt. Okay, so for the horizontal, the two-dimensional catching area, we've got from about here to here. We're at about, I'm gonna say 14 inches. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going with 14 inches on that. Now, for painting the pole area, we've got the top of the cage to the bottom of the band, we've got 18 inches. So if you crunch the numbers there, that is a 30% higher catching area, 30% more, compared with putting a little loft on your putt, painting the pole, and jamming it in there on a horizontal plane. This is our first principle. Our first step in the Putt Confidently Approach is how are we approaching the basket itself? How are we formulating our way around this thing to make as many putts as possible, to three putt as little as possible. So if you guys dig this and you want to get into 2024 and get into this Putt Confidently Approach, get into these 10 principles, we're going to have some sports science along the way, some sports psychology along the way, a lot of putting tips. You know, probably a good idea to hit the subscribe button. You don't have to go by these principles, you don't have to live by them, you don't have to implement them. But it is probably worth your while to at least hear what we're up to. You know, being putt confidently, working with the basket so closely, we probably think about putting more, probably than anyone else on the planet. We've got to be in the top 10% at least. Just moving forward, we're doing this YouTube thing. We want to share these ideas with you, and we hope you're along for the ride. We'll catch you later.